On this episode of the Bangkok Podcast, we talk to a Bangkok city planner about what the city will look like in 10, 50, even 100 years.
But first, a magical cure for terrorism. Thailand.
Here's episode 2.36 of the Bangkok Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian expat who came to Thailand on a vacation in 2001 and never left.
And I am Ivo Terra, an American expat living full-time in Bangkok since the beginning of 2016. Thanks for joining us and welcome to the Big Mango.
Nice to see you online again, my friend. Hope you're doing well this week.
It's a great week, I think.
Well, I wanted to start off by going over a little bit of news that popped up about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and that was the case of two journalists who were leaving Thailand to go to Iraq to do some news reporting there, and they were both arrested at Suvarnabhumi Airport because they had bulletproof vests, body armor in their luggage.
Yeah, that made quite a splash here in the Thailand news scene. So that was people you're connected to, yes?
Yeah, I know one of the guys. I won't say his name, but I know one of the guys, and he's one of the most solid dudes I could ever recommend as a friend. He's a really, really nice guy, and I'm sure the other guy is too. But that's not what I wanted to go over. And the reason they were arrested is because technically, bulletproof vests and body armor are classified as like war weapons in Thailand, and you're not allowed to have them. So even though they were going to one of the most dangerous countries in the world, they were arrested at the airport. They got out, they paid bail, and they were released and all this stuff. And the Foreign Correspondents Club came out with a statement saying this is not proper behavior for journalists who are putting their life on the line in their day-to-day job. Anyway, That's not the story I want to go over. What I wanted to go over was what happened when they paid their bail and left. And this is something that is so Thailand to its core, and it's got so many layers of subtext to it. But as my friend was paying the fine and picking up his stuff to go back out into the world, the officer said, you shouldn't have these bulletproof vests. You should just invest in a good amulet, which will bring all kinds of protective power washing over you.
Oh my God. Thailand's mysticism. Oy.
Yeah, Thailand, and that the people in Thailand, a lot of people in Thailand believe so deeply in the power of these Buddhist amulets that they really believe that they will bring magical protective powers on you. And it sounds so silly to someone from a Western country, but when you take a step back and view it through a Thai lens, it's so Thailand. And it's, like I said, there's just so many layers to this. You laugh, but at the same time, you're like, well,
yeah.
You can learn a lot from how Thais think by these situations.
And that's probably the best way for us to think about it and continue to talk about it for just a few more seconds here, is that this tells you a lot about Thai culture. Don't focus on the silly aspect. I'm telling myself over and over again. Focus on this is a greater understanding of how life in Thailand works, and you'll be a much better person when you get this through your thick skull, Evo. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about this before too, and it's not, if you come at it and think like, what a stupid thing, that's not helping anyone. It's not helping you understand Thailand. It's not helping you to endear yourself to the Thai people. Right. What you've got to do is look at it as a unique element of the Thai culture that you are in, or if you're living here, or that you are interested in or learning about, and use it as a learning experience. But it's still, when you're dealing with life and death situations, I'm not really sure that hanging a necklace around your neck is going to...
Yeah, I'll take the Kevlar. I'm good with that. Thanks.
I just thought it was funny. Well, this week we are going to go over to an interview I have with a very interesting guy. His name is Tao Rukkapan. I think I said that correctly. I'll ask him when he gets to the interview. And he is a lecturer at the School of Global Studies at Thammasat University, who used to work for the Bangkok Metropolitan Association, otherwise known as the BMA. I know, it's administration, not association. As an urban planner, and he also did his PhD on Bangkok's preservation of Chinatown, which is an area that's undergoing a lot of change right now, and which I am very interested in because I used to live there. So we're going to talk to him about what the future of Bangkok holds. What will the city look like in 5 years, in 10 years, 100 years? And we'll hear what he has to say about that. Well, we're here with Tao Rukapan, who is a lecturer at the School of Global Studies at Thammasat University and who works deeply with the way Bangkok has developed, is developing, and will develop in the future. So, Tao, welcome to the Bangkok Podcast.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's really exciting to have you on because I've lived in Bangkok for 16 years and I've seen the city change a lot in that time. And it seems to me that in the past 3, 4, 5 years, things have sort of ramped up. So there's lots of construction in Bangkok. There's trains, new train lines going in. There's new buildings going up, especially along Sukhumvit, Silom, and Sathorn.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot of old buildings and communities being knocked down for newer developments, especially in places like Chinatown and Thonburi. So can you talk a little bit about the development of Bangkok? Like what's happening right now and what's it working towards?
Your description is very accurate because right now we want to promote what we call transit-oriented development (TOD). That's a very urban planning concept. So essentially, we want to encourage density around transit stations. And why do we want to do that? We want to ensure that ideally we want people to live within the transit station in order to reduce the trips by car, but sometimes that can go wrong. That can go too far. And in the zoning code, we actually say that we want to allow tall buildings to be built around every transit station. All right, so that's how you see lots of speculative investment going on around transit station, and some of these stations have not even been built yet. So that's definitely going to be a major concern. And I've talked to people from the BMA Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, raising my concern that that is not sustainable because you want to build a denser node around the transit station, but at the same time you have to evict people, and like you said, we have to demolish lots of old buildings. So they're in the next zoning plan, they are considering readjusting the zoning code in order to be more sensitive to the historical context.
Okay, so sort of spreading it out a little bit instead of focusing all the zoning around the dense knots around the transit stations.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now you said the next time they do zoning, how is that? Is it like a 5-year term or how
exactly?
Does that work?
Exactly. We update the zoning map or the zoning plan every 5 years, but sometimes it's Bangkok, it's Thailand, so things do not always go according to schedule. So we do have an extension period of 2 years. So the last zoning plan, for example, that lasted for about 7 years. So the current zoning plan came into effect in 2013. So we can expect the new one to be revised by 2018.
Okay, that's interesting. Talking about zoning, it's funny because one of the things that I often hear people talking about is that Bangkok seems to have no zoning.
Right.
Like you'll have like a super tall skyscraper next to a shanty town, next to an empty lot, next to a restaurant. So how does Bangkok work in that regard?
Yeah. Okay. I want to first of all, I want to correct one misconception about zoning Bangkok. To say that Bangkok doesn't have zoning at all, that's an inaccurate description. And I'm not defending the BMA because if we did not have zoning, next thing you know, you could have like I don't know, like a gas station literally right by your house, right? So we do have zoning, but the level of sophistication is not up there yet, in a sense that the land classification is very broad, it's very coarse. So in a sense that we cannot control everything. But what we have done is we, and again by we I mean the BMA, they ensure that basic incompatible land uses, for example, industrial land uses or industrial factories or plants, will not go into residential areas. All right. So, and that's the basic thing that DBMA has been doing for decades now. But now they are moving progressively towards ensuring that the zoning code is more updated and more innovative in the sense that they promote creative industries, they promote historic preservation. But again, it takes time. But I do see good things coming out of their Dindang office.
Okay, yeah, and it sounds to me like it's a bit of a sensitive, delicate balancing act. I mean, you have to modernize, you have to grow, and you have to bring in new technologies and
Right.
new systems and things like that. But at the same time, a city like Bangkok, which has been here for 200 plus years, like you want to preserve as much as you can, but you also can't preserve everything.
That is true. Yeah.
But for to the layman, to the regular person on the street, they might not see the nuance there, and all they see, especially when you go down to Chinatown, there's been a lot going around in the past few days about this, about how it's losing all of its character.
True. That is true.
So it seems to me that a lot of times, if there's a choice between developing too much or too little, they always go for too much. Is that true?
It is. I think it is true. It is pretty much laissez-faire in Bangkok right now when it comes to urban planning. Like I said, the zoning is in place, but it's still too coarse, and it cannot regulate everything. Especially it cannot regulate private properties, for example. I have a good story from Chinatown a couple of years ago, actually a long time ago. One this guy, he had like this beautiful Chinese, I think it's a Chinese traditional Chinese medical hall dispensary or something, and it's so beautiful that the word got out to the Department of Fine Arts saying that we should preserve this building, and once he knew that his building was going to be preserved, the next day he had it demolished. And do you know why? Because
Why?
he wanted to turn his property into something else, because he realized that once his property was listed as a ancient site, for example, he cannot do anything to alter it.
Oh, okay, so he's like,
Yeah.
oh great, I've got this beautiful new classification, but I'm screwed. I can't do anything with it.
Exactly. So that's how historic preservation works in Bangkok, and again that's also the case for a lot of cities in the world that I have studied. For a city to have successful historic preservation programs, we need a lot of ingredients, right? And the city hall is just one of them, right? We need, for example, tax incentives for people to actually have incentives to preserve their historical heritage, right? And we
Right.
need like, strong legal instruments as well. And again, Bangkok, is not known for proper law enforcement. So yeah. So it's Chinatown, for example. That's very sad. And Chinatown has been the site of my research for a few years now. And yeah. And again, the development is led by the upcoming train station, which is going to pop up somewhere in the heart of Chinatown. And for the communities that I talk to, the communities that live literally right by the station, they are being evicted as we speak. Because
Yeah.
again, the landlord had a plan to redevelop the area into something ambitious, grand, and glittering and things like that.
Right. I guess when a beautiful old 2-story house does not make the same amount of money that a 30-story condo
Absolutely,
will.
exactly. Yeah, that's
You
what
know.
they're going for.
No, speaking of the transit in Chinatown, I used to live in Talat Noi.
Oh, you did.
Very
Oh, you
close.
did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, fantastic neighborhood, really
Yeah.
interesting, and I love the area.
Quickly gentrifying as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But now I'm looking at a transit map, and the blue line will continue from Hualampong straight up Jaron Krung Road, right through the middle of Chinatown. Well, not right through the
Exactly.
middle of Chinatown, but adjacent to Chinatown. And then it'll go just behind the old Siam Plaza through Little India.
Yep.
And then it'll zag left and go under the river. And that's just one of, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 lines that are on the green light. Whether or not that'll eventually ever plan out, well, that remains to be seen. But that seems to be the inevitable conclusion of these things. How will that change Bangkok's character? You mentioned that your plan was to rezone around stations to encourage less driving of cars, which is probably a good thing. But
Right.
how do you think the character of Bangkok will change when there's train lines all over the city?
The character is going to change a lot. That's for certain, especially for areas in close proximity to the other transit station. Like I said, within 500 meters of 500-meter radius of every train station, we're going to see more density. We're going to see more buildings being built around that. And that again, and that's better for better and for worse, right? For better, we're going to have, I guess, more. The idea was to bring people back to the city. So we want to encourage people to live in the city. We want to provide more space for them to live, work, and play again around the transit station. But at the same time, like I said, it comes at a price, right? Older communities who have lived there for generations, for decades, since again the founding of Bangkok 200 years ago, like you said, these people are being evicted in order to pave way for new urban vision for the middle class who can afford that kind of condominium living. So the vision it's pretty bleak in a sense that that's the kind of thing that we have to pay for in order to get to get a kind of vision that we want. So yeah.
Yeah, and I've talked about this on the show before, and it's easy to sit here in my air-conditioned apartment saying like, "Oh, Bangkok is losing its charm," in the apartment that was built on top of an old charming little community that used to be here,
Right,
20 or
right.
30 years ago. So it's sort of six of one, half dozen of the other, as we say. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have it both ways. So no, let's look at get away from the train lines and look at places like, for instance, let's say Sukhumvit. Now it seems like Sukhumvit is slowly but surely turning into Manhattan, and I just drove down the other day, and I don't think a lot of people ever really look up, because I was walking down the street and I looked up and I'm like, Jesus, there's like 3 new huge buildings that I didn't even notice before.
Yeah.
So how is Sukhumvit going to change in the next 5 or 10 years? Like, will it just be just lined with huge skyscrapers along either side of the SkyTrain?
I think that's a fair speculation, again, because of the train station, Tongla station. That's the main incubator of Sukhumvit and Tongla area. And again, Sukhumvit has been slated to be the financial district of Bangkok.
What about Sathorn?
Well, again, looking at the train stations, there are only a few stations that service Sathorn area, right?
Right.
But Sukhumvit, for example, that's a long sort of linear spine that with lots of train stations that link the area together. So from the perspective of investors, Sukhumvit is a much more profitable area, because it sits right in between 2 main roads, Sukhumvit and Phedbury to the north. So it's definitely much more profitable. And Sathorn, by contrast, is owned by sort of old money people. So, and again, and they want to retain their properties, or sometimes a lot of land plots in Sathorn are owned by foreign embassies, for example, and some of them
Right.
are actually considering selling the lands. But again, when it comes to investment, Sathorn is very expensive, to be sure, right? But then again, when it comes in terms of accessibility, Sathorn is not as good as Sukhumvit. So yeah, so it's going to be a while for Sathorn to catch up.
Yeah, Sathorn's kind of a wide road that's hard to get across if
Exactly.
you're a pedestrian.
Yeah.
There's no transit there, so it's a bit inconvenient. But I was just talking with a friend the other night, and he was saying that the Australian embassy might be giving up their land,
Oh yeah.
following
Oh
suit
yeah.
of the British embassy.
Right. Yeah. That's a sad trend. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and he was also talking about how on Soi Convent, and this is hyper local information that people only get if they really know this area, but the block of buildings along Soi Convent, from almost where it touches Siloam up about to the Catholic school, I think, or thereabouts, will be demolished, including Molly Malone's
That I don't
standby
know.
pub.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and the Starbucks and stuff like that, and that's going to be the new headquarters of the Minor Group.
But they're doing the same thing. They're doing they're trying to I think, and again, Marcus knows more about this, like a new CBD, Central Business District, in Paramgao in Rama 9. That's the corner of what's the name of the street? Right behind the Rama 9 MRT station. That's going to be the new
Right.
CBD of Bangkok, according to
Right, by
yeah.
Central Rama 9 and Fortune Town and
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
where they're going to build that huge new building that's going to be 120 stories tall or
Yeah.
whatever it's been proposed.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the tallest skyscraper of Bangkok.
Switching tack a little bit, what's Bangkok doing about flooding? Because it's something we always hear and it's something we all know is inevitable.
Yep.
But it's sort of everyone is like, what are you going to do? You know?
No, that exactly. We cannot do anything, and it's my if you ask me, it's my philosophy that Bangkok is too large for its own good, meaning that Bangkok outnumbers its own carrying capacity, meaning that the location itself is not proper for human habitation in the first place. I'm sitting right, at the mouth of the delta, meaning that the land is sinking every day as we speak.
Oh, so like going right back to its founding was the wrong place to put it.
It is wrong. It is wrong. It was not meant to be a city in the first place. It was meant to be
right.
a port. That's all it was intended to be 200 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah, and Bangkok sinks every year at a rate of 1 meter per year. And Bangkok is not very high from in the first place. And with all the global warming, with this sea level rising, you have sea rising up on the one hand and Bangkok sinking on the other hand, right? So that doesn't bode well for Bangkok. And all the things that they talk about, the great tunnels, all the sewage clearance, all of these are gadgets, are superficial treatments, right? Because it doesn't fix the actual root cause of Bangkok, which is growth. It is too big. It is too big for its own good.
And on top of that, they're just adding millions and millions and millions of tons of cement every day.
Oh yeah. That's why the surface of Bangkok is very impervious, meaning that water cannot filter down into the ground. So whenever it rains, everything is completely jacked.
Wow. Well, wrapping things up here, I want to talk about the people like yourself,
right,
who are in charge of deciding how Bangkok develops. I think earlier when we were corresponding on Twitter, you mentioned that in years or generations past, Bangkok didn't have a lot of planners, or it did have planners, but they didn't have the type of training or experience or exposure necessary. But that's changing now.
Right.
So what can you say about the new, like your generation of urban planners, and what are they bringing to the equation?
We are hopeful, really, because and we are thankful that the current executives of Bangkok, they are in agreement that we need to act now, or else it's going to be too late. So they are expanding in terms of their workforce by recruiting more engineers, architects, planners, landscape architects into their personnel. They are expanding their internal units. Historic preservation, for example, was something that they never heard of. Was something that they never really cared about. But again, an internal unit for historic preservation was founded a couple of years ago. Again, that's a sign of a commitment that Bangkok that BMA has been listening to our voices, but at the same time, the pace is very slow, right? And in Thailand we do produce a lot of planners and architects, but not all of them go into the public sector for obvious reason, because the pay is not as good. And again, there's a lot of red tape surrounding. In order to become a government planner, for example, you have to go through lots of examination, right? And the job is not. That doesn't pay well in the first place, so that does not really encouraging. But for the existing, for the people who already work there, they have high hopes that something good will come out of their work on the day-to-day basis.
And one last question before we go. It's kind of a hard one, but what do you think Bangkok is going to look like in 50 years or 100 years?
We'll be underwater, I think. Yeah. On a more serious note, again, I think we're gonna have more cars. That's for sure. Despite all the new train stations, all the new transit lines, but cars are going to be an inevitable future of Bangkok. But on a more positive note, we're going to have more parks as well. That's something that BMA has been committed to by building more parks or adding more green spaces to Bangkok. And again, it's not going to be a huge park like Central Park in New York or things like that, but it's going to be green spaces on a community scale, scattering around Bangkok, and that's the plan. So it's going to be a mix. It's going to be a mix of what we already have now, but on a more confusing scale, right? So it's going to be flood. It's going to be cars, but at the same time, something's going to be put in place as well.
Oh, well, thanks, Tao, for coming on the show. That was really, really interesting. And we'll check back in with you in 100 years and see what's going on. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
And that was really interesting because it's kind of a necessary evil, I think. Cities need to evolve, they need to grow, they need to modernize, but at the same time, striking a deft balancing act between losing what was once there and replacing it with the new is not easy.
Yeah, as long as when we get new, we keep getting air conditioners, because that's required living in Thailand. Here's something that is not required living, but I think it should be, and that's everyone's favorite segment of the show, a little something we like to call Love, Loathe, or Leave. This is where one of us brings a small element of living in Thailand in front of the other person, and we find out, is that an aspect of Thailand that they love, or they loathe, or they hate it so much they're ready to leave? My turn again this week, Greg. I've got one for you.
Okay, lay it on me.
The men's room that isn't.
The men's room that isn't. Is this a gender thing, or what do we mean?
Nope. This is when you, being a Canadian, me being an American, when you go to the men's room, the restroom, the toilet, the men's lounge, as it is oftentimes called, the chance of you seeing somebody who is not a man in there is effectively zero. But in Thailand, the chance of you seeing a woman in there is effectively every single time.
Yeah, and it's not only when you see a woman, but it's when you see a woman, let's be honest, when you got your dick in your hand.
Right.
Standing at a urinal. I assume you're talking about the maids that sort of come in and out of the bathroom without a care in the world who's in there or who's doing what in there.
I am indeed. And it's not just the public restrooms here. Where it really struck out at me was in my condo, we have a gym, a sauna, a pool up on the top floor. And we have a men's locker room where there is both a sauna as well as a steam room in there. And the etiquette inside of this men's locker room is unusual in that the maids will just come in and clean whenever. They don't knock. They don't say, hello, I'm coming in. Nothing. Nothing. I came out of the shower the other day and I'm drying my hair, and I've only got one towel, if you know what I mean. And in comes the maid, and it's like, hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome to my dick, I guess.
Well, yeah, I know. I've never been caught in that precise situation, thankfully. But yeah, it happens all the time here when you're standing at the urinal. Someone walks behind you and she's got a mop and she's just mopping around your feet and cleaning around you like you're not even there, and she couldn't care less. And it's sort of like, hey, get out of here. But at the same time, you're like, well, I mean, shouldn't you show a little bit of interest? You know, like, am I that undesirable?
Hidden. What's the right word I'm looking for here? So where do you stand? Love, loathe, or leave this aspect of life, which you will encounter today, chances are?
Well, I don't love it. I don't loathe it. But I could do without it, put it that way. It's even after all this time, it's still a little bit disconcerting when you're sitting there and your junk is out, and then this 50-year-old woman sort of walks by you and starts cleaning around you. Yeah, it's disconcerting and it's a little bit odd, but I don't know. I guess the only other option would be to shut the bathroom while they do their thing. But cleaning here is such a it's they're constantly cleaning. It's not like this is a cleaning time. It's just constant throughout the day.
Seriously, so. They do. And you'd think it would be cleaner, but no, even though they clean all the time, you'd think this. Anyhow, I'm going to go in the love category with it because I'm learning to love it. because as an unabashed and unafraid to say, lifelong naturalist, this is like, well, this is the way it should be. We shouldn't worry about this kind of stuff, right? It's just getting, 48 years of conditioning out of my head to be as cool with it emotionally as I am intellectually.
I guess so, but it would still be nice to get a little bit of interest. Maybe like someone to sneak a little peek or something. At least show some, like at least give me to go, hey, you're just cleaning here. Come on.
How do you say chicka bow bow in Thai?
Bow chicka bow cop.
Oh, it's terrible. Hey, before we take off, Greg, one thing new in podcast land for the people who are out there listening to us. If you want to do something cool and helpful, especially to expose the world to more Thai podcasters, I've got two things for you. One is a little trick of mine own, and the other one is something new and interesting. So first, for the trick of my own, if you have other Thai podcasts you listen to, or if you want to expose our Thai podcast to your friends on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever, let's start using the hashtag ThaiPod. Get it? THIPOD. Tripod was a big thing that happened in the community a month or so ago that was kind of, okay. But I'm thinking ThaiPod might be a neat way for us to expose other people to the world of Thai-based podcasting. That's one thing. That's the easy thing. That's the Evo says we should do this. However, if you want to get on the new cool thing, there's a new service coming out in beta that just launched a few days ago. It's called Podchaser. Podchaser.com. If you go there, they're trying to build the repository of reviews and rating information for podcasts regardless of what platform. Right now, they're almost all tied to platform. And we get a lot of people saying, I'd love to review Bangkok Podcast, but I don't use Apple Podcasts. I don't use iTunes. Fine. You can now go to podchaser.com and review not only the entire show, but also individual episodes. And not just our show, but all of them. Hands down. Every single podcast is in there already, and they would like for you to use it. It's in a closed beta right now, so when you go to podchaser.com, use the key Bangkok. Just type in Bangkok, and that will give you free access to get in and start rating and reviewing us. Obviously, say nice things, but other podcasts you listen to as well. So give it a shot. Something new and neat, because I like to keep you up to date on what's happening in the world of podcasting.
Well, it's also good to see that new stuff is coming out from around the podcasting medium.
And I'll have new announcements for coming up because Apple's making some big news as well. But that's coming up on a future show.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone again for listening to this week of the Bangkok Podcast. If you have anything you'd like to share or a topic you'd like to hear us talk about on a future show, just head over to bangkokpodcast.com and leave a comment or send us a message. Or you can reach out directly to me on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg.
Or you can send us a message either on Facebook or on Twitter. We're at Bangkok Podcast. We also have the Line group. Thank you to the 20 people now that are in our Line group. That's fantastic. So go,
nice.
I can't tell you the URL because it's terrible. So just go to the show notes and look for the link online, and we will do that for you. I am Evo Terra, and Greg and I will be back here next week with more stories of our lives lived in the City of Angels, right here on the Bangkok Podcast. Cheers.
That's funny.
Yeah, remind me to tell you. I have another one about horses. I should tell you one of these days too. So,
sounds terrifying and or intriguing.
It's a great joke. So, yeah. Okay.
Right. All right.
Here we go.